Because with this idea of being a person, a separate entity, an individual, separation is isolation. Isolation is loneliness, fear, trouble, not recognising its all one essence, that pattern, shapes and forms of experiences and expresses as everything and everybody, including you, me and everyone else, is that. There is nothing, no thing that is not that. But they call it in Hinduism, in the Advaita teachings, as a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So all these believed in separate entities and all the separation that's in this manifestation is appearance only. It's only seemingly so. Like the mirage in water, or the mirage that appears. Everything is appearance. And we take on these pattern, shapes and forms and believe we are the person. But where does the person come from? Look at the ancient language. It comes from the Latin persona, the mask. So we got this mask or conceptual image. I am Bob, or you are Jane or Bill, or whatever your name might be, is the conceptual image we take on and believe ourselves to be that separate entity. But when it's investigated, you see it's nothing separate. And they call it, in some of the scriptures, the phenomenal manifestation. The appearance is what it seems to be. And the appearances, it takes place in the basic space of phenomena. The basic space. What are we all in right now? We're all in space. Try and get out of it if you can. And look around you, and everything you see, there's nothing you can postulate or think of that could be outside of that space. What would it be in? Now, can you find a centre to space? You can't find any centre to it at all. Try and find where does it begin? Where does it start from? You can't find any beginning to it or any end. What boundaries has it got to it? Has it got any shape? Got any form? Well, space hasn't got any shape or form. It is no thing. Yet you can't postulate or think of anything at all that could be outside of space. What would it be in? You must realise it would have to be in space. So all this manifestation is the content of space. Space is no thing. Can something come from no thing? When I say no thing, I don't mean nothing, a vacuum or a void. I mean no thing, no pattern, no shape, no form. And space they call a cognising emptiness, an emptiness that has this capacity of cognising or knowing. And the Buddha told us that a couple of thousand years ago when he said emptiness is form. Because all this emptiness is patterning into shape, patterns and forms, which we all are. Cat? Emptiness is form, and the form can't be anything other than the emptiness. So that is basically what everything is. Now that pattern, shape and form appearing to have suffused with it intelligence energy, appears to be solid, substantial and real. Well, what happens when you go to sleep at night and you start to dream? what happens in the dream? Don't you? You can be in the hills, the mountains, or the rivers, or the city, or in your bedroom, anywhere at all in that dream. All seems very real. And the activities that go on in that real are seemingly very real. What happens when you wake up? Where does the dream go? It disappears. And you're back. And what you don't realise when you wake up to this dream, which is a waking dream. Because when that dream at night disappears, so do the places you were in and the things you were doing, that all disappear along with it. When you wake up in the morning, what happens? The dream seemingly starts off from where it left off the night before. And the room, the persons, the places and the things are still there. And they continue on from there, seemingly continue on. But realise, when you recognise it is a dream, while we believe it's a dream, we get locked into it and suffer accordingly. When you recognise it as a dream, you see the difference. As Nisargadatta will tell you, realise you are dreaming a dream you call the world. And he says, stop looking for ways out. And he's talking about this waking dream. We're in this dream and things are happening and we're looking for ways around them, through them, over them or under them. All dream. We don't realise. Because that's what needs to be recognised. What do you need to do for that? Well, they say, investigate. That's one of the things they will tell you, to investigate. Because they say the false cannot stand up to investigation. And when you look into it, you'll see it's true. A lot of these beliefs we've taken on, when we look into, are really false. They're not true at all. You go down to the ocean, you'll see a blue sea. Is that true? Well, try and get a bucket of blue water out of it and see whether it's true or not. You'll never ever get a bucket of blue water out of the sea. The blue sky, look outside in the clear day, there's a seemingly blue canopy over it. Go up thousands of feet in the plane, do you think you'll ever fly into that blueness? You won't, because it only appears to be so. The water in the mirage. The rainbow. You're going up on a cloudy day, you'll see all these colours in the sky. The colours are not there. It's just the sun shining and reflected into the clouds forms the different colours. The snake in a rope is one of the ones they talk about in Hinduism. The fellow steps out of his cabin on a wet night and treads on a wet piece of rope. He believes he's trod on a snake. And immediately the goosebumps arise, the hair stands on end and gets the shakes, and fear comes into him because he believes the bite of the serpent. He gets all sorts of concepts and ideas. Somebody comes out and shines on it, look, it's only a piece of wet rope. Well, immediately there's a great sense of relief. But the fear and the trembling don't die down straight away because they've been physical sensations have been stirred up. And if he doesn't take on board it's only a piece of rope, it'll come back again and haunt him. When we look at these sort of things and see ourselves that we're not this person that is suffering, this fearful, unhappy person, this individual that thinks he's not good enough, and all the other concepts we get about it, you'll recognise the truth. And that's the scriptural saying. Know the truth, and the truth will set you free. It'll set you free because you've investigated and seen the false as false. And the false cannot stand up to investigation. So we've learnt all these words, all these concepts, and take them to believe to be. And how does that function? Well, have a look at it. Something comes up and I like it. How do you know? Well, you've had the sensation before, investigated, and you know it's a good one. And we don't want the seeming good ones to go. Not realising that there's all this manifestation is transient. It's all constantly changing. This body you walked into the room with is not the same body you got now. There are thousands of cells dying in it right at this moment and being replaced. And each cell knows what to do that replaces it, because the liver cell is not going to replace the heart cell. Heart cell is not going to replace the skin cell. So each one knows what to do, but it's happening by itself. What are you doing about it yourself as this person? Nothing. So we see it's all transient, and that's what we don't realise. Everything is changing, constantly transient, and that when you look at time, you'll see that. Past, present and future. Is there a past if you don't think about it? And can you live in the past? Well, try it. Test it out. Can you live a moment ago? You can't live a moment ago. You might recall it, and sometimes you can't even recall it if you don't think about it. But unless you recall it, it's gone. And what you did yesterday or last week's the same. If it's not in your memory and you can't recall it, it's gone for good. But you can't go back and live it. You can't live a moment in the future. You can anticipate and imagine the future. You can't tell me what you're going to do when you leave here. You might have a concept, an idea about it, but it'll be anticipation and imagination. But you can't actually live again. So what do you got? Past, present and future. What's this presence? Which they call presence awareness. Presence awareness, before any sensations come up, pre-sense this immediacy. Are you unaware right now? And you realise, no, I'm not unaware. So if you're not unaware, you must be aware. So what did you have to do about that? If you're not unaware, you are aware right now. And that presence is spontaneous. It's got no duration, and all time is its duration, has a beginning and an end. But spontaneity doesn't have any duration. Try and grasp the now. I've got it right now, but as you're saying that, it's moved on, it's gone. So that is all there is, this spontaneous presence awareness. And that is what you and I and everything else is. We appear in different patterns, shapes and forms. But the appearance is not the reality. It's only what seems to be. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. And that's what the definition of phenomena is, that which appears to be. So all appearance, taking ourselves to be this person, this individual, this separate entity. And we suffer accordingly because of that. It's only me that can be fearful. Only me that can be unhappy or depressed, guilty, shameful, jealous or envious. Me is the cause of all the psychological suffering. And this me is only a conceptual image, a thought-up image we have. As I said before, goes on, a thought comes up. And you don't know what your next thought is. Can anyone tell me what your next thought is? You'll say, I don't know. But a thought will come up. And what do? You grasp it. I think. And as soon as you grasp it with I think, what have you done? You've created a subject, a thinker that's thinking this thought. And the thought that's being thought is a spontaneous emanation coming out when it's on. So it's become the object. So thinking has become subject-object. But if you ask yourself and look into that, can there be a thinker without thinking? And you realise there can't be a thinker without thinking. And can there be a thought without thinking? There can't be the thought without thinking. So thinking is the activity, the beingness, the life coming. And thinking needs a pattern, shape and form to express through. And that's what this body-mind entity is, the pattern, shape and form in which thought, feeling, emotion and everything expresses. So the thought, look at the thought I think. And can the thought I think? It can't. The same with the seeing. Can the thought I see? Can the thought I hear? The thought I feel? The thought I touch? Can the I thought do any of those things where there is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, thinking? The ing is something that's happening right now. It doesn't need the me to relate to. We've taken it to be because we learnt words. Well, when you learn words, you have to know what learnt the words. Where did you begin? And you'll all say, I was born. A lot of you here won't say that because you've seen through it and know it. But those that haven't said, I was born. But can anybody actually remember your birth? When you look at that, you realise you can't actually remember your birth. And you look into that, you see why. How could you remember your birth if you had no words? And you didn't have any words at birth. And you didn't learn any words till you're about 2, 2.5, somewhere around that age. When your parents fussing around you, speaking, and you listened, the capacity of reasoning was developing, and you were able to listen to what they were saying and learn the words. So you see, when you look at that and remember that, you see, for that first couple of years you were without words. And what would that tell you? It tells you that you are prior to the mind. Because that's all the mind is thoughts, words, ideas, images. And if you were functioning before the word, it means you're prior to the word. Well, to look into that, you say, well, when did you begin? You believe you began at birth, but did you? And go back and have a look, investigate and see. Investigate these things. How did you come about? Well, go back as far as your father and your mother, that animating pattern of life, essence, that intelligence energy, that pattern shapes and forms your father, enabled in that pattern through the breath, reasoning and the heartbeat and all the rest of it, and the food he's eaten, enabled in that pattern a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. That sperm was a blob of goo, was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same in your mother, that animating life essence, that intelligence energy in your mother, it knew what to do also. Because it formed an egg or an ovum. And that ovum attached itself to the wall of the uterus, telling you that it was formed, it was suffused with intelligence, knowing what to do. And the sperm, being suffused with intelligence, knowing what to do, swam to the ovum and penetrated the ovum. And those two coming together formed the little embryo, the little fetus, which is what you are today. Those two coming together doubled that cell, redoubled it, and the little embryo formed, which 9 months later became the little baby, that little fetus, which is what you are today. We've lost sight of that and believe we are this person. But you're that intelligence energy coming together. So you came from the life of your parents. And where do they come from? The life of their parents. And where do they come from? The life of their parents. And you realise when the Sagata tells you there is only life, there is nobody who lives on life. Nobody. We believe we are these body minds, but there's nobody that lives a life. Life lives on life. And out of life more life comes. And that's what Christ told you. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about that sense of presence, which expresses through the mind as the thought I am. That is the life that you are right now, because each one of us still says I am. You know that I amness, the sense of presence, the intelligence energy, to which that I am, you say, I am Bill, or I am Jane, or whatever name you might have given, put the label on which discriminated and miss sight of what we are, the actuality, the pure intelligence energy, and take ourselves to be the person. I am Bob, the Australian, the good fella, or not so good. The seeming person, the mask, the conceptual image. And functioning from that point, it's the reason it's only me that can be unhappy. It's only me that can be fearful, because I've taken a belief that put a concept on this believed in person, a conceptual image, a thought up image of what I believe myself to be. Only me that can be fearful, only me that can be anxious, jealous or envious. That's the cause, that psychological suffering is the cause of all my problems. And the fear, the anger, the depression, the unhappiness, the guilt are the effects of the cause. Isn't that what they call so-called karma? Cause and effect? Now what happens if I investigate that and ask myself the simple question, can there be an effect if I'm not relating to the cause? Well, have a look at it. Try it out and realise if you're not relating to any cause, where can the effect lodge? Or what can it be? So you'll see the cause of all your psychological problems, the fear, the anger, the depression and all that, is because of that belief we've taken on that this me is this body-mind entity, this person, this separate entity. Not realising this person, this separate entity, is only the pattern, shape and form which needs to express through. Because this absolute awareness, and that's what it is, absolute, presence awareness, Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, name and form. Existence is Sat. Sat, anyone who is not existing right now, no, I'm existing. Chit is conscious, anyone who is not conscious. I'm conscious. Anyone who's unhappy, unaware, doesn't want to be here right now. Nobody wants to be dead right now. You might have times when you feel you want to, and all the troubles going on. But in the actuality of it, you don't want to be dead right now. So everyone is happy to be. So don't you see, Sat Chit Ananda, you are already that. Already that. We've taken on the concept, that's not it, that's this body-mind, that's this person. And I need to become realised or liberated. Becoming implies a future time. And we just got into the time as a concept. There's no such thing as time, apart from a concept. So there's no becoming. But being, another way of putting the Sat Chit Ananda, is being, knowing and loving to be. Anyone who's not being? No, you know you're being. Anyone who's not knowing that they're being? No, you certainly do. Anyone who's not happy to be? You don't want to be dead, of course. So you're already that. Being, knowing and loving to be. So realise being when you will never be becoming. So don't try, trying to become something, it won't happen. Because becoming implies a future time. And there's only this momentary, spontaneous now. And we call ourselves human beings. But the label which discriminates as human being. If you believe in God or some higher power or something, you'll call that the supreme being. So what happens if you've got these labels, human and supreme? You take those labels off. Take the label human off. Take the label supreme off. Try and negate your beingness right now as you're sitting there. Try and tell me you are not. You can't. Without those two labels, you're not being a human, you're not being a person, you are just that beingness. And that being is breathing, heart beating, hair and fingernails growing, thoughts arising, coming, that all the digestion happening, fingernails and everything going. It's going on spontaneously, naturally and effortlessly. Pure being. And we say, how does it work? We'll have a look. Something comes up and you like it. You don't know what your next thought is, but that thought has come up. And it's a good thought. What you think is a good thought. And you like it. You don't want the good stuff to go. You want to keep it there forever. Not realising that everything is transient. No matter how much you love it, how much you want to keep it there, it's going to change. And you don't want it to change. So what do? You fixate on it, trying to keep it there. And we fixate on it, and what does it do? Once it's transient, trying to move away, but fixating on it means you are in conflict with it because you're trying to keep it there when it's naturally, spontaneously going to move on. So we're in conflict. And that conflict makes you unhappy, distressed, or guilty, or jealous, or envious, uneasy. So there's resistance, conflict, and uneasiness, which is not a word, dis-ease, is going on in your life all the time. What about the other way? Something comes up and you like it. Instead of trying to make this one go, you want to keep it there, not realising again that it's transient. No matter how much you like it, you won't keep it there. It's going to change. So again, resistance. Again, conflict. Again, disease. And isn't it what our life's made of? Of this constant stress and anxiety and disease going on, fighting with this, never leaving things as it is, but constantly trying to change it, alter it, modify it, correct it, which is conflict. We're continually in this conflict, and unhappy, depressed, guilty. And that's what Wei Wu told you a couple of thousand years ago. When he said, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. And then that, when I pointed out, if you might have seen it then, you see that there is no personal self. And they tell you that in all the scriptures if you look closely. There is one self, one God, one pure intelligence energy, just one Atman, one self. But we've got this personal self, which is the many. And one has seemingly become the many, but it's never ever changed its true nature from that one. And while believing in the many, we're in problems, trouble. Seeing it as the one and knowing it as the one, there is a great sense of relief from that, a sense of well-being, being well, and put it simply, nothing wrong anymore, nothing right or wrong or good or bad. As Shakespeare told us that 300 or 400 years ago, and he says there's nothing either right or wrong, but thinking makes it so. And look at that, you'll see it's right. Look at the way you think. You're always thinking in the past, or the present, or the future. And it's either good, bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, high, low, far, near. Have a look at the way you think, and you'll always realise it's always in the pairs of opposites. And that's our problem. We take one, we take the good, try and hang on to it, and don't like the bad, separate them. And constantly in conflict because of that. Constantly in trying to divide the indivisible, trying to separate the inseparable. It can't happen, it doesn't happen. And when we try to make it happen, that's our problems. And what needs to be done is to recognise. It's to call it a cognising emptiness, and that is with the capacity of cognising or knowing. And the Buddha called it that when he called it a cognising emptiness. And he made the statement then that cognising emptiness is form. You and I are forms. The trees, the flowers, the hills, the mountains, everything out there are forms. And he told us that emptiness is form. And he says the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. So you and I and the trees, the flowers are all emptiness, forms, performing apparent forms seemingly real. But we take ourselves to be real. We try and separate the emptiness and the form, not realising that it's one essence. Now have a look in nature again. In nature, we'll have a look at the sun and the earth. This planet Earth is rolling around the sun. This part of it is facing the sun, and it's light because it's facing the sun. The other side of the earth is facing away from the sun, it's dark. Does the earth know anything about darkness or light? It doesn't. Does darkness or light know anything about darkness or light? It doesn't. It'll naturally roll around, and this end will become dark and the other end will be light. But the same pattern is functioning in our minds. But we get the good thoughts, we want to hang on to the good thoughts and try and keep it, not realising that they change. And when it changes to its opposite bad, we don't want it, we're fighting it. Not realising it, left as it is, it'll come around again. Just leave everything as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And it'll come about. And you get the balance of it, the evenness of it. It makes life a lot simpler and a lot easier. It happens by itself. Einstein tells us that years ago, and he said, I worked on this problem for years and couldn't find an answer to it. He said, one night I went to sleep, dreamed, and in the morning I woke up and there it was. And it turned around again and come to him. And a lot of his ideas and inventions came the same way. And a lot of yours and mine will too, when you leave things as they are, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. No preference, no partiality, no comparison. Because the preference, partiality, comparison and altering, modify are conflict. We're at war with each other. Constantly in conflict. And that's what keeps us in the pattern. What is wrong with right now if I don't think about it? I can't say it's good, can't say it's bad, pleasant.
Painful. Pleasant, painful.
Pleasant, painful, good, bad, high, low, whatever. Always going on. Just leave everything as it is and it changes by itself. They call you that too. They give you clues to it all the way through. The great perfection. They call it in Buddhism. What can you add to the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect. What can you take away from the perfect? Nothing. It wouldn't be perfect. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. What's the other one? The other scriptures, they call it absolute. Absolute is the same as the great perfection. What can you add to absolute? Nothing. You can't take anything away from it. It's all absolute. And if you recognise that you are absolute, who can ever be superior to you? Who can ever be inferior to you? And what would you want from anybody else? See that all the world's problems would be a lot different if you wasn't chasing after what somebody said or done, that you can think you do better, they've got more chance than you are, or they're greater than you, or not as poor or unhappy as what you are. All that would disappear. Knowing that I am the absolute. Take that stance and see how it goes. Work it out. And what is necessary will come up. So there it is. Recognise your true nature. That you are not this body, you are not this mind. Have a look at that. I am this body. Are you the body? Well, you certainly know you're not the body because you say my body. You say my coat, my car, my house. Are you the coat? Are you the car? Are you the house? No, you know you're not those things. Well, maybe you're not the body either. When we investigate it again, what's the body made up of? You realise the body's made up of elements. Air, earth, fire, water, space. Just the same as the elements around you now. Take the air out of your body, see how long it lasts. Take the water, the body's 90% water, or 60%, one of the two I forget. Take the fire, the body heat. Take those elements away, you wouldn't last too long without them. So you realise this body, they call the body is only a pattern of the elements coming together. Earth, air, fire, water, space. All subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles can be broken down into pure energy. So the body is nothing but a vibrating pattern of energy. Take this thing we call mind. Again, you say, my mind. Well, show me your mind. You realise you can't show me a thing called mind. And there is nothing there that is mind apart from thought. And if thought is mind, you'd have to be a particular thought. And which thought are you? Are you this I thought? If you were this I thought, you'd frightened to lose it every night when you go to sleep. But you give it up with great pleasure. You lose it. So you know you're not the thought. And what's the thought? Thought is nothing but sound. Sound is word. Word's a vibration. A vibration is just a movement of energy. So it all comes back to the one thing. Energy which is suffused with an innate intelligence. It's not an activity that doesn't know. It's an intelligence energy. A vibration of pure being, knowing and loving to be. And that is what you are. You can't negate that beingness, known to you. Intelligence is an activity. It's a movement, something that's going on. Activity of knowing. An activity is a movement, and any movement is energy. So that's where the term intelligence energy comes from. The activity of knowing. Anybody there who's not knowing right now? You can't negate it. You say, yes, I am that. But that's what we seemingly lose sight of with all that's going around, on around. Now, though there are millions of people locked into this belief of being the person, down through the ages, there have always been some that have recognised the true nature somehow. And these people wouldn't be here if you weren't looking to go for something beyond the religious beliefs and activities, because they're limiting their boundaries, putting limitations. You're a sinner, you're a terrible person, you've got to do this and that. Putting boundaries on what is boundaryless, effortless. So you come here like others have done before over the years, looking into something that's different. You mightn't find it here, but some have, and others mightn't. That's the same as people looking around found other things. And they formed great religions around some of them, and then those great religions got corrupted because somebody got on the idea that didn't truly understood it, so he said, oh, I do, but you've got to do this and got to do that to become what I'm talking about. Gave them a task, you're a sinner, and put all these concepts on them and made it impossible to find what is natural and ever fresh and ever new. But the others point directly to it. Recognise that you are that. That is all there is. There is nothing other. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Be as you are. All these things. So that's what we point to and ask you to look for. And as I say, people here can tell you about it, and that's what I ask you to do. Those that have got a taste of it, tell us about it. So somebody here might hear it different to what I'm hearing it, and it might be the very thing that opens them up. Others in even expressing it will open up more. that's the way it's passed on from one to another. So you don't have to go around worshipping people and think they're going to come and pat you on the head with a peacock feather or something and give you enlightenment, give you a sense. It won't happen. It never has happened. And by practicing this mantra and doing that, and that, mantra isn't good in terms of making the mind one-pointed, but you've got to go beyond that even, the one-pointedness. They call it silence, emptiness, the great perfection. Emptiness here, emptiness there, yet the infinite universe stands ever before your eyes. No difference, for all boundaries have ceased. And you're left as that, emptiness. But it is a cognizing emptiness, an emptiness suffused with intelligence. Remember that. Don't just say it's no thing and think it's zero. And let it express as it is. So away you go. Tell us about it.
Can you get the mic?
One.
Ears.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm still a bit confused about the concept of cause and effect. How do you eliminate the cause and effect concept? You said if there's no cause, there'll be no effect. How do you? Can you please
I
explain
can't
that?
hear. Wait a minute. I get the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
as soon as I get the ears in, I was
I
stripped of
was
the
just
hearing
trying to get
power.
the question straight. So earlier you said that if there's no cause, there'll be no effect. So earlier you said, is this on?
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
him,
right.
him that can hear it.
Yeah. Earlier you said that if there's no cause, there'll be no effect.
Yeah.
So how do we eliminate the concept of the cause?
The cause.
Yes.
Well, who is the cause? You see that me is the cause. If you see there's no me, what would do it? That same intelligence in it is breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair on your fingernails, enable those thoughts to come up and enable those words to be spoken.
So you mean there will just be things that just happen?
You think you're doing that speaking right now. The speaking is happening. If that life wasn't in the body, how many words could you say?
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any questions from our online community. We have 20 people with us, and we have a couple of good morning messages from all over the world. From Argentina, she says, Patricia says, great. It's great when I can on Sunday night connect with this beauty. Sunday night, yeah. For some people, it's still Saturday night.
Who was that?
Patricia,
She came out of here.
yes. Yes, so anyone would like to share something or ask question or tell us how you sit with that? Is it? Yeah, please.
Thanks. You talk about the thought a lot, and that we experience things through thought. Can you talk about the connection between the body and the emotions as well, and how those interact?
Yeah. Well, the body, you see, in the absoluteness, the absolute can't do anything at all. So patterns, shapes and forms to express through appear in an instant. This body is a pattern through which the words, thoughts, sounds and everything express. Animals and birds don't have words, but they have sounds they can connect. And activities, you know. It's the life essence that forms the patterns to express through. So as the Sagata says, it's only life. There is nobody who lives on life. Life lives on life, and out of life more life comes. And that is all there is. If that life wasn't there, when there's death in the body, the life essence goes out of the body. What good is the body then? It's a corpse. It breaks down and goes back into the elements.
In the understanding of the absolute, I find that I'm missing the personal. The poet Rumi talks about the beloved. In our early sort of Catholic upbringing, we talk about the other, the God out there, and there's a sense of a personal interaction, and that's not the case, it seems, with non-duality, that there's nothing personal, so to speak. And I find that that's sometimes I feel about that, I miss that.
Well, it's different. Everything is the love of the being. Wouldn't express it if that urge to be wasn't there. So it is love that's expressing. And they say, God is love. If God is love, love must be God. And you love to be, don't you? Well, that's the godliness in you, not the personal separate entity or the belief that there's a person.
And in many, many people, there is still the very strong, persistent sense of being, of everything being only personal and completely not being all enveloping. And that is also the absolute experiencing and expressing as personal. You have that possibility because of the resonation with the message to actually be in above worlds. I mean, to be a Shiva and to be a Shakti. But for a lot of different forms in the manifestation, they are only the act that they're playing. They are not the actor or not the director of the whole show. And that's perfect too, because the Absolute has every position in consciousness.
It says in the Hensing Queen, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Doesn't mean to say when it's both love and hate are both absent. They can be either one or the other, but they're not when we separate them. But you see the two ends of the one stick. It's, the impersonal is not going to be so bad, is it? Because you know it's coming from the personal. The personal is not going to be so bad because it knows it comes from the impersonal. It's only the slant we take on it, whichever the end of the stick we go to.
Yeah, I think key thing that I had a realisation recently, like everything just happens, but the difference is when it's happening to me, sort of thing. So that's the difference, I think. Like everything just happens, but when it's taken as it's happening to me, then that's the self-centre that is taking it on board and saying that's happening to me. So that's the one that needs to get looked into, because everything just unfolds and happens, but when it's taken personally, that's where the pain happens, I guess. And I guess, although Bob's point is like up until age like 2 or 3, like there's emotions happening, there's expressions happening, there's crying, there's laughter, there's whatever, and then they're already happening, but there's no one there sort of claiming it, and then the ego identity starts forming and saying, I'm crying, or I'm doing this, or I'm feeling this, and but it's never perfect. Like the light is just growing stronger at times, and you don't need thoughts to experience this. Like it's already there without thought. So, but the other day I was in traffic and there was anger came up and I flipped the bird at someone in the traffic. So it's just like it's not this serene. it was perfect. Like the emotion will just flare up, and it'll dissolve straight away, and things shift. But there's no story around it, and it just happened. There's no saying it happens to me, sort of thing.
Yes, Bob?
Adrian was saying is the happening. All happens. And that was all it was. It happens this way, that way, or any other way. But it's happening, occurring.
Yeah, recently I've been, some challenges have come up. Had some kind of sad news whilst I was overseas, and we were supposed to be going and visiting museums and doing all of this kind of stuff, and I found myself, reasonably upset. And then I had Bob's words in my head, what's wrong with right now if you don't think about it? And it's amazing how when you just drop the thought, all of a sudden you can enjoy the moment regardless of what, potential future things are going to happen. And similarly, when I've had emotions coming up, the thought, just that question, who is having these emotions, and investigating that. And it's amazing how quickly what you're sucked into and labeling as sadness, whatever, anxiety, literally just becomes a vibration that's happening in your body. And there's nothing, you can't label it as bad or good, or it's just what is. And it's amazing that how quickly you can step out of a personal story and be just experiencing a sensation in your body, and then everything is just, there's still joy there's still peace, and you can just be doing whatever you're doing. There's no story overlaid. But I guess I have a question, and the answer seems obvious, but I need to ask it. Why do we have to wait, or why do things that apparently appear to be bad have to occur before we can have a sincere or kind of serious investigation?
Everything, pattern, shapes and forms and the seeming opposites. Could there be day without night? Could there be silence without sound? If you weren't happy with what was going on, would you look for something else?
Also, questions why.
Always
invitation for a story. Wanting to know, wanting to have everything understood and explained. It's just really going out of that beautiful feeling of a mystery and oneness into the head, which, now I understand, I don't have to be afraid anymore.
Yeah, and even as the question comes up, I hear myself well, who wants to know the answer? And then a step back into that looking, and it's just a sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An experience last week where I was in a health food shop, and there's a laundromat across the road, right, across the alleyway or the corridor rather. And there's a guy in the laundromat getting really angry, and he's bashing things around. Have you ever been in that sort of situation? Adrian? I don't know.
It was me.
Yeah, right. Cool. Yeah, he'd really lost it. He was a no-hoper, real no-hoper, poor guy. And and he's very angry and crashing and bashing things. So fuck this and fuck that. And he came over to me and he had a look and he expected some sort of response, and I didn't have a response. So I just went on. I looked at him briefly, and then went on, and he went, "Oh yeah, all right." And everything fell down in terms of his expectation of some kind of something to come up against. Yeah, that was all. There was nothing there that he, I don't know, for whatever reason, that's the way it occurred. And I think we all dissolved. The whole situation dissolved into nothingness from whence it came. There is nothing, and everything can be approached in this way, can't it? Just wait a moment and it all passes. Wait. What rises to meet that life anyway, except the ego and the sense of being an ego, the sense of a self rises to meet these things and somehow respond. But where is the reality of that? Where is the reality of me in relationship to anything at all, really? When I really look, where am I? Who am I? It's good to. I think we really need to, at some point, get down and dirty and have a real good look for yourself. I like to say, in the privacy of your own mind, that. Anyway, that's it.
So it's almost as if this guy was waiting for your resistance to be able to push back so he can continue the story, but when there wasn't any, there was just the acceptance. It's like punching the air, like you're not going to hit anything. And it's a thing that I find a lot in life. If we're in a state of acceptance of things, it kind of dissolves the self on its own. If we're not trying to think like, no, it shouldn't be like this. It just is. This is how it is. Yeah. Oh, okay. And then it's not personal. It's just how it is. And it just dissolves the self without having to be like, I need to dissolve the self, which is once again that same, I need to do this. I'm resisting the fact that this is what's happening. I'm resisting the fact that I'm angry or that I'm this or that this is happening around me, rather than just, okay. And it kind of sheds the story, the self, the everything on its own, just with the acceptance. That's it.
Beautiful.
Just thinking about the when you get something turbulent before something gets looked at, and often you just got the unraveling of the universe, and then tighter and tighter stories get laid on top of that of, oh, it must be working like that, based on a limited amount of data that pops up, little notions that pop up in each head. And so it just could be that, enough sort of stuff of the universe is coming together that something's kind of ready to be unraveled and let go of. And before that, it gets quite turbulent. And then the next level of story is, the universe noticed that before it got looked at, And then the next level of story is, I thought of, investigating that, things got really serious, and then I investigated it and fixed it, And it's just layers and layers of, when it's really just stuff doing its stuff. And then people could also say, once upon a time I thought, the universe is just unraveling in a mechanistic way. It's just, velocity and mass all coming together as it does. And that there's nothing outside of the universe. And there's no catalyst to change anything, so it's only ever going to happen as it happens, because I'm including the whole universe already. But then someone say, no, it's quantum now, it's really just occurring kind of more randomly than that. And then there's theories that no one's even thought of yet. And then there's theories that are probably more sophisticated that no one will ever think of, because these are just human, mechanisms that can't possibly think of that. So, yeah, it's just really stuff.
If you just notice, the way we know the world, nothing stays the same. Everything changes. Everything constantly changes. Weather is changing, seasons are changing, the moods are changing, the inner weather is changing, the people's attitudes are changing, the circumstances, geographical, political, all of it is changing. And it's changing the same, not the same, it's changing in a really various patterns to every living creature. It's changing for the tree, it's changing for the cockroach, it's changing for the dog. And only humans have that system in which they evaluate and take the change personally and say, I like this one, I want to keep it. I don't like this one, I want to push it away. No animal does it. I just had a cat on my lap, and then I needed to get up, and the cat jumped off Didn't take any offense. It's just what's happening for the cat. It's just like Navi was saying, yes, if there is a yes, underlying yes, to this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Just that's the life, effortless living without underlying suffering, without that pull and push. And if the pull and push happens, of course, as long as there is a body-mind, the body-mind will always prefer pleasure to pain. And the mind will always try and find something more attractive than this. That's its function. But if you are not your body and not your mind, but you are that underlying yes, that underlying field of knowing, in which, interesting, that's what's happening. And now that, rain, sunshine, anger, whatever. Then life becomes fascinating, whether there is personal response or impersonal response. Obviously, if that body responds with whatever, anger or sadness, it is a particular to this body-mind. Other body-minds would respond differently. But is it really personal? It's just how this body responds, just like how the cat's body responds. If you are the field of knowing, you can see your own body responding in a way that is maybe not very flattering. And interesting. Instead of, I hate myself, I shouldn't be. No, it's just all really unfolding, because is it really up to me how this body is going to respond? It goes as far back as Bob was saying, spare and ovum, what music my mother was listening to when she was pregnant, and what food she was eating, and her great-grandmother. It's just that it's totally not up to me. It's the whole universe that shaped this particular response.
But
There
what
is
about
no
karma?
space. No, karma is nonsense. It's a story. If we want to go into a story, we can justify all of this with some sort of a justice. What karma does the wolf have?
No, but I mean,
That one gets caught, one
but
doesn't.
isn't it? But do you acknowledge that there's cause and effect in the world?
No. Everything is caused by everything else. You know, it's really very naive to say that it's one cause and one effect, because that excludes the simple fact that for that one cause, let's say, what causes the rain? Let's say the wind causes the rain because it blows the clouds. But really, what causes the clouds? The sun that shines on the ocean and evaporates the water. So what causes the rain? The clouds, the wind, the sun, or perhaps the fact that the planet even exists. That is also part of a causality. Or maybe the fact that there is a water, that substance on that planet.
But
So
there are
you-
observable patterns, though. There are patterns that are observable.
Yes, and can you dissect singular cause in the observable pattern? It's like a wave.
I
So
see.
everything's included.
Yeah.
For the rain, the whole universe contributes for the rain to come. And the karma is a naive idea, which is a sweet idea. It's
So
as
you
naive
don't
as
believe if
heaven
someone
and
does
earth.
the right thing, does a certain, if they're bad, does something there's going to be a natural consequence to that eventually.
You can't ever know that.
We
Yeah,
can't.
You
we
don't know.
can't-
There is tons of
It's
people
just
who get away.
morality that's superimposed.
Absolutely. It's a romantic, beautiful, romantic
Yeah.
idea. There is a lot of people who get away with bad things, but there is a karma, one could say. There are consequences of absolutely everything. If you go and steal something, the consequence will be there. You may go and steal again, and then you may become a thief. You may get away, or you may go to jail. There is a consequence in repeating pattern. But whether someone else will get on you or not, well, that's up to the whole universe. Consequences are unpredictable.
Just social control, isn't it, karma? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no one-ended stick. There's no one-ended stick. There's no one-sided coin. Cause and effect. They're both two ends of the same thing.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's only one. Two ends. Seemingly divided. So the cause and effect are two. Can there be an effect without the cause?
There are no shortcuts. There's one thing happens, another thing happens, and the mind makes a connection between those, splits them into two, and says there's a connection between there. but they're just things that happen, and it's happening all the time.
Have the same, pattern, the same connection.
Sorry, Don?
There are often the same things have the same pattern, the same connection.
Well, okay, but that's all. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the exoteric reality, if you like.
Yeah,
That, as opposed to the esoteric reality. Okay, and we're in this room. We're talking about the esoteric reality. Yeah. Now, if you want to talk about the exoteric reality, yeah, there's cause and effect, but that's a mind thing. Okay, and the mind is the thing that that comes up with the story that sticks us into suffering. Okay, and that's what we're trying to address in this room.
Sure.
Hmm?
The noumenon versus the phenomenon, basically. Yeah, it's the phenomenal world, not the noumenon. We want the identify with the noumenal. Okay, that's it.
Hey, I just have a question for you, Bob. Just in the context of the conversation here around, let's say, personal and impersonal, or the seeker and the sought, I wonder if you could speak of the serenity prayer in a way that might make sense. If you could reflect on the 12-step serenity prayer of the wisdom to know the difference between those things.
Well, what is it God grant me? The serenity? You have to be granted serenity. Isn't serenity there? An acceptance, to accept the things that I cannot change. It's all there. Courage to change the things I have. And wisdom to know the difference. It's all there, it all left as it is, it'll work out by itself. Don't have to be granted anything at all.
And it is naturally there. If you look at the animals again, the natural world, the cat can know the difference. What can be changed, what can't be changed. When the cat is hungry, it goes hunting. If it hunts, it eats, and it changed it. Some things can't be changed. The cat doesn't try to change the weather or something like that. It's just that we humans have so much story hanging around it, so much credit taking. This is right, this is wrong, I shouldn't. And that is what causes suffering. I love how Cole put it very, very simply. Yes, you can go with the story of the mind. Yes, you are the body in the world, there are other bodies. The world is against you, you have to survive. Yes, it's a good story. If you want to suffer, stay with it. But there is a way of experiencing directly the world in which the wave or the pattern of the mind is only part of the landscape. And direct experience, the seeing, not translated by the mind as I, the seer, see this, the world, and we are separate, but directly be the field of seeing, be the field of knowing, field of questioning. And in this, even when something unpleasant comes up, that something unpleasant is just what's happening. Rain may be unpleasant if you're having a picnic, but there is no need to fight or suffer because of something that's inevitably part of the happening. You may see the response of the body to the rain. Ah, shit! And that may be interesting also. It doesn't have to be something dreadful. It may be something fascinating. Oh, that is how this body is conditioned. Amazing. It can be amazing. And I have a comment here from Jay. I am currently watching the fragility of the ego game at work. It's such good news that I have a choice to sit back and watch and wait. Yeah, when the resonance is there, the seeming choice appears because the reminder comes up. And Laura says, morning Bobcat and crew. Sorry, I just woke up after Paul McCartney. We'll watch the replay. Oh, we're still here, Laura. And few more good mornings from Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast. Yeah, so that's that.
I just want to make a comment on the seeing it from the duality almost seems a waste of time because it's just the headlines. It's the tiny, tiny headlines of everything that's happening, and we're missing everything else. So to say that, you know, that's why to me decision making is just so not real, so not true, because it's, how can you get the entire everything down to 2 points and say that, you know, one got selected? It's just, yeah, it just doesn't even seem worth wasting time with it. That's why it's better to go to the kind of mind you were talking, you know, the space you were talking about, and not experience the misery that Carl was talking about. You know, it's just such a flawed argument. Decision making, such a flawed argument.
It is beautiful.
Like she said in the first place, it's all duality, as you say. Without duality, it's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
And I love how Tony says, you know, you focus into the subtitles and you miss out the whole show, focusing just on the subtitles, just on the narrative, and missing out the field of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, experiencing, just pure being, knowing, which is delightful, delicious, intense. And the narrative is always good, bad, pleasant, painful, yuck, boring.
You were going to speak, mate. No, you go.
Oh, it's such a beautiful deepening for me today. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask, in the spontaneous present, is a beautiful intention still relevant?
Yeah.
To what?
Beautiful intention in the spontaneous presence when the intention arises. Yeah, beautiful. Anything that arises is totally welcome. It's nothing right or wrong. It's welcome. You see beautiful intention, wonderful. You see the other, wonderful.
Do you need that if you're...
You have no choice.
Oh.
It shows up or it doesn't.
Okay. And the road to hell can be paved with them, huh? The good intentions of the self-righteous.
I was going to say, I think you're onto it before with your last comment where you're talking about the phenomena appearing versus the, what was the other word? Yes. So the phenomena are coming and going. It's the any identification with that phenomena is the problem. It's taking that to be somehow representing what I am. So any latching onto any of the phenomena is that'll won't work out. So the space out of which the phenomena appears is where we reside. Is the true essence, but yeah, it can be tricky at times, I think.
I just want to express gratitude to you, Bob, for speaking the truth and living the truth for so many years, and not really that consistency and accuracy of the truth has the ripples of that are definitely felt and loved, and I just want to tell you how much I love you, quite simply.
Thank you, Taz. It's the same life here that's there.
Beautiful.
Just back on the body and that cause and effect thing, is it that, if you've got a conditioned existence of how you arose from a child and through your life, there's an awareness there in thought, but there's an awareness in body and emotion, and perhaps like that struggling, that kind of resistance, the fighting response of not liking the way something is, or wanting something that you can't have, or maybe there's something there in that cause and effect thing that there's an underlying
Yeah.
cause that sort of gives you a response.
Yeah. Believe in me.
But you don't necessarily need to be that response or act on that response. You know, you're not the thought that arises, and you're not the emotion that arises. And like the weather, they pass through, and you can observe them and notice them, and say, oh, there's that again. And by not sort of clinging onto it and attaching it to it, you don't have to go on that ride and go to those places. And maybe that's a little bit of cause and effect. However, like Bob, as you say, like then deeper down, there's not necessarily any underlying cause. There's just is. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, as you started off, there is an awareness of this and awareness of the other. What's the one that doesn't change? The awareness itself.
You can just notice without focus.
And also, I have a comment here from Ram. In the appearance, capital letters, in the appearance of things, there appears to be a cause and effect. And this can be a useful idea in everyday life. If I don't attend to a meeting, my boss will probably yell at me. As a seeming cause and effect, it's a useful tool. But in actuality, everything is the cause of everything. Life is spontaneous. Time is illusion. Where is the room for cause and effect? Yes, actually in a language, absolutely. It's totally practical to use that. But you understand that even if you don't show up on the meeting and the boss will yell, well, it's not just singular cause and effect. For that, again, the whole universe has to create a room and a boss and yourself and all of it. Nothing's excluded. But for the convenience of the conversation, I say I, even though I can't find any I. And I can say, oh, it's shining, so we'll do this. But the truth is, there is interconnectedness, and not even that is too much of a word, because it suggests that there is more than one. It really is one appearing as many. So everything causes everything. Yeah?
Can I just say, you can break... a lot of causes and effects are just habit. So if you always react to something in a certain way, say, oh, this is going to happen and this is going to, really piss me off. But if you if you change the way you react, as a surprise, then you're eliminating that cause and effect, because you're not behaving in that habitual way to that cause. So then the effect is also nulled.
Then it's not a cause.
Yes. That's it. That's what I mean. So it's often cause and effect is what is just habit.
It's just a narration.
Yeah, what makes us suffer, the suffering, the things, the triggers. I mean, we just think of it. Oh, this has happened, and this is how I'm going to react. But if you choose not, if you don't, then you've eliminated that. You've neutralised it.
Just commenting on that. Who's choosing or who's not choosing to react?
Yeah.
So it's just seeing deeper than the person, right? So on the relative level, cause and effect appears to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. It serves its role, right? But once you see that it's all the one mover, right? And it's all the expression of that one, cause and effect collapses, right? So it appears to be so, but once you see, if you're believing the story of, I'm the one doing this and that's going to have an effect, right? That can be so, right? But once you see deeper than that, you're not really doing anything.
So you're just a dancer.
It's just expressing through you.
You're the dance. You're the dance, not the dancer.
Mm-hmm. It's just expressing through you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'll throw in a very psychological perspective on it. So I'm a clinical psychologist.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the key core functions of the brain is to create a future picture. And when it doesn't have enough data, it digs into the past experiences and creates a data point connection and creates a false image. So it's a phenomenon observed very commonly in psychology, and it agrees with Advaita. So it's pure phenomena, purely to keep you safe, to make you feel safe, but it's false. So once again, just saying it's a phenomena, there's no reality to it. Your mind is connecting two data points to make you feel safe.
It's a frame. You can always reframe it or just step out of the frame.
Just observe it as a
Observe the frame.
phenomena. Yeah. It's just trying to create a future picture to keep it going. It will just connect anything. So a commonly observed instance of this is if I told you your angel numbers is 11, 11, 11, your mind will just start to see the patterns everywhere, because now I've created the belief. So now your mind is going to show you everywhere you go. So it's a false narrative once again.
The mind's a problem solver. If there's no problem, it creates a problem to solve.
Yeah.
To work.
I'll add that it's the same as when people believe that if you pray, then the sun will rise again tomorrow. But if you don't pray, then maybe it'll stay night forever. And it does look like a very reasonable cause and effect. Like, yeah, I prayed yesterday and there you go, the sun is here. But we don't actually know. And like Kat said, there's so many different things that can cause this one thing. And we just don't know. So we create this narrative, we create this belief of, oh, okay, it's because I've done this, then this will happen. But we don't actually know. So is there a point of even living by it?
It's continuity.
It's just what is. Yeah.
It matches pattern exactly the same way we recognise
Pattern
it.
matching.
I think the whole deal with the cause and effect in this context is basically seeing that the effect is all the suffering, and if there's no cause there, then that collapses. So that it's the cause of all the hurt, the suffering, the anger and the separation. So it's investigating the cause, which is the shadow self, me, and seeing that that actually doesn't exist. And therefore the effects can't happen from that position. That's my take.
Beautiful. And I have a comment here from Katrina, who said, because there was a lot of ideas here, I can reframe, or I can do this, or I can do that. She says, you don't do anything, but she puts a head with heart. So it's a kind comment, kind reminder, and very appropriate, and thank you. Yes, the space-like awareness or cognizing emptiness is already having the capacity to know, capacity for knowing. So there is no me that needs to watch or do or observe or relax or reframe. It's just a spontaneous happening, being, knowing.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of forgotten where it was. I mean, Bob points to something. He points to something. He gives it the name non-duality. Okay, and so we're here to look at that, and the first thing we learn is there's lots of illusions, and there's an illusion that things are separate, and that opposites like top and bottom are really both the ends, as it were, of the same stick, as you've heard a couple of times tonight or today, and that sense of me, the sense of me starts off by when we see something, when we see something, we add a me to it. So when we see a rock, okay, it's just a rock. But if it's something more, if it's something that causes emotions to arise or something, then I get involved in it. Okay, and those sorts of things strengthen the me. And when we want to do something, when we look at something up there and we want it up there, that I want it, and that strengthens the me. There is just something up there. That's all there is. Okay, and we add a me to it. Okay, and we add a me to it, and every opportunity, everybody in this room, including me, are coming up with explanations. It's my explanation, it's my wish, or it's my want, or that sort of thing. And actually, sitting here, none of us, absolutely me, can say nothing about anything. There's nothing to say about it. It's just the way it is. Okay? And that's peace. That's silence. There's no me there.
Yeah, I have here there's a comment from Claire. Hi, can I come and buy the cards? I see them on display here. And I say absolutely, yes, they are on this display here. And we actually created a little video in which we reminded people that actually they're going to be taken off Amazon, because Amazon starts putting fine if they stay too long. And I would like to thank you people who actually bought few eggs, because now I have enough money to pay a fine to Amazon for another month because I didn't have it. So we may have them till Christmas or something before I take them out, because now I can pay the fees that. So yes, thank you very much. And Claire is also saying, do we quote unquote accumulate, have access to increase relative intelligence by seeing through the veil? Or do we simply reduce suffering? Would you like to answer that?
Nothing can be added to it, nothing taken away, it just as it is.
Yeah, just reducing the obscuration. All the intellectual knowledge and mental images are the veil. So the less of the clouding, the more of the clarity, but that's not a clarity which we understand when the mind tells added intelligence. Nothing can be added, nothing taken away. And reduced suffering is just a byproduct. And it's not even a reduction of suffering. The concept of suffering as a psychological resistance basically stops making any sense. And that's that.
Come back tomorrow on Zoom?
Oh yeah, tomorrow, especially for people from Northern America, there is a Zoom Sunday evening for them, Monday morning for us. And anyone who wants to join Bob and Julia on that meeting are welcome, of course. They are all free of charge. And the weekdays, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we also have Zoom meetings for more of Asia and Europe. And yeah, you're welcome to schedule private session as well. And that's that.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So, how many followers have you got?